All right. Woo. The new creative, we're going to design a new Belgian waffle. I think that's where we're going to start. And I was told there's different kinds. There's the official kind, and then there's the tourist trap, but we'll avoid those. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Chris Doe. I'm a loud introvert. It means that I'm really awkward and socially strange, and I don't like to do public speaking. And yet here I am. And just to make it more challenging for myself, I decided to, for the first time ever, to co-present with somebody. I've never done that ever, so there may be some trip-ups here and there. But I wanted to tell you about this really big mission that I'm on. It's to teach 1 billion people how to make a living doing what they love. And a young person asked me this question, is like, Chris, how are you going to do that? That's like 1 in 8 people in the entire world. And I didn't have the answer. I just thought to myself, have a big, hairy, audacious goal, and then figure it out as you go. And luck would have it, a little over a year ago, a former student of mine reached out to me and said, hey, I'm in town, I'd love to have lunch with you. I'm like, okay, I'll do this. We get together, and he starts telling me about how he's using AI to empower other creatives to build websites at an incredible speed. And this is how his brain works. And he's getting me so excited that I immediately, that day, jump on Midjourney, and then later on, onto ChatGPT. So we continue our conversation weeks and months later, and he asked me this question. He said, Chris, would you like to have a robot version of you trained on your material? And I knew I had to say yes for 2 reasons. 1, because it sounded really exciting. And 2, I know he's going to build it without me, so I might as well get in on it. And that was the birth of Dobot. It's a ChatGPT version of myself, and I think of Dobot as a more charming, empathetic, kind, patient version of myself. Because I look at Dobot as the ultimate TA, the teaching assistant, because, I mean, how many people were in college and university who thought, wouldn't it be great if the TA knew as much as the instructor, but it was really patient, and you could call 24/7? That would never be me, but that is Dobot, and people are saying they're having emotional conversations with some doppelganger of myself, which really excites me. So I'm really optimistic about the potential of human and AI enhanced productivity, working at not just linear levels above what you're doing, but on exponential scales. And before I continue on, it's a little bit dark in here, but I can see with the blue slide. Dave and I have a little bet going on as to who's here. So I'd like to just do a little audience poll. And I hope you enjoy the super wide format. It's a very sexy format to do this ultra wide thing. But it caused a lot of trouble for us to redesign all of our slides, as you can imagine. Okay, just by a raise of hand, who here self-identifies as a designer, creative, or a content creator? Oh, Dave. Okay, we'll see if you're right. And then what's the next one? Who self-identifies as a developer, somebody working in code or technology, IT, information services?
It's about the same.
Okay. It's about the same. A little bit less, maybe 1 or 2 less. So you're all going to raise your hand at some point, right? You have to pick one of the 5. Inevitably, some people are like, nope, I will not participate. You can't control me. You're not my boss. Okay, how about in sales? We met a lot of salespeople yesterday. Maybe they're all here today again. Okay, and then we have marketing. In marketing, hey, I think it's working.
Yeah.
And then in management, like you own the company, you're the entrepreneur, you're at a director level. Oh, that's a little surprising, Dave.
Even split.
Okay, so how did your prediction go?
It was about the same.
Yeah?
So that's good. Yeah.
You know what? No matter what you did, he was going to say that.
Anyway.
He was going to say it. So, okay. That's very interesting. So we designed our talk today to hopefully hit all of you as best as we can. It's hard to do this when you have such a diverse group of people, but we'll talk about high-level concepts that the management people can grab onto and then hopefully feel inspired and excited so that they can call everybody else and say, hey, you need to get on this. And for the people who are maybe doing the work, we're going to give you very practical, tactical things that you can do that might bore the management people, but will really excite you. So we're going to hopefully allow you to have the conversation with each other. Okay. Now, normally I never hold the microphone this close to my face, but I was told to hold it here. So that's why it's glued to my chin. All right, here we go. I think the hope and the promise of anything in life is to be able to do this. The result of increasing productivity and efficiency and innovation is for us to be able to do more and better in less time with fewer resources. And I believe AI is one of those tools that are going to be able to allow us to do this thing in a very small and intimate level or scale up to giant organizations with thousands of employees. Now, on the topic of AI, my friend Daniel Priestley was asked this question in a Q&A session. He's the author of Oversubscribed, Key Person of Influence, and Raising Entrepreneur Children, among other books. And he was asked, like, what are your thoughts on AI? And he said, I believe it's going to be the greatest economic driver of wealth in the history of humanity, in the history of the world. But it's not going to be evenly distributed. So that got me to think that if you were born 2 years ago, you will not have known a world without AI or machine learning and automation. And so I just want you to posit this question for yourself right now. When your grandchild or even your young child right now, if you're a young parent, when they grow up and they ask you this question, I want you just to think about what your answer might be. That what was the world like before AI? Like how many people ask us, like, what was it like, Dad, before the iPhone or the internet? And we have to remember that we were at that point, that paradigm shift, and we witnessed it and we lived through it. And some of us made the most of it, and some of us regretted not making moves early enough. And probably more importantly, what did you individually do to capitalize? Because it was the biggest transformative moment, the economic driver that it is, that we believe it to be. Did you ride that wave? Did you learn how to surf? Or did you get caught up in it and swallowed up and drowned? How you answer that question will determine how you feel about what we're going to talk about. And I do want to say this, I'm not a Pollyanna. I'm not looking at the world through rose-colored glasses. AI is not perfect. It's far from perfect. And we wanted to address some of those things. Dave?
Yeah. So a lot of the way that AI was trained was based on the human brain. And so some of the big revelations that I had from one of my mentors, Steve Raju, was whilst AI was trained on the way the brain works, it's not restricted biologically by how the brain works. So, for example, if we look at each of us, we've spent several years getting expertise in different areas, so maybe research, analysis, strategy, ideation, and then writing and creation. So each of us is usually good or primarily good at one thing, but what I learned was when you use AI or generative tools, we can actually be more than one at the same time. So we can ask AI to be more experts at the same time. And when I learned that, that actually started shifting the way that I started prompting, because a lot of people who use prompts, they ask it to be an expert in a single field. But when you start blending them together, it starts mixing the context of several things.
So we live in this radical time right now where I believe technology is moving as the fastest pace it ever has, and simultaneously at the slowest pace it ever will. And that's an amazingly shocking thing. And so I think we're living in this new world order and a brave new world of possibilities. And that means that we need to have new rules and to be able to understand how to navigate this and take advantage of the situation or the opportunity that presents itself. Chris Sacca, who's a venture capitalist in Silicon Valley, had said this, and it's an idea that I've held on to, maybe many of you who believe as well, right? Ideas are cheap. That execution is everything. Like, all of us have ideas and opinions. My son will walk up to me when he's 6 and say, Dad, you should do this. I'm like, well, why don't you do it if you think that's such a great idea? And we know that if you can get your product to market faster than your competition and you can do it better in a more innovative way and deliver a better human experience or user experience, then you're going to win in the marketplace. So that makes a lot of sense, right? Ideas are cheap. Except for in the new world order, in this brave new world, it's thinking and idea generation is going to be the new currency. So this is a radical way of looking at things. The world has turned 180 degrees, and we have to learn how to work with that. I'll give you an example. I have 2 almost adult children now, and if they were to ask me years ago, what should I study, Dad? Probably not one of these things, like study writing, philosophy, psychology, history, or rhetoric. I mean, I would want them to study the humanities, but there's not a lot of practical job applications. Most of them are baristas at Starbucks, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe I'm hurting a few feelings in this room. I don't know. Whatever. But now that AI can do anything and AI can do the production work for you, all of a sudden everybody who is sitting there studying things about history and understanding what motivates human behavior, all of a sudden they have a lot more power now because AI can do anything. So we have to ask ourselves, what should we be doing? What reference points should we give it? And how should we articulate our ideas to it such that it can build it for us? What a fantastic world, I think, right? And this is like a fulfillment of my childhood fantasy. Because when I was in junior high and I procrastinated, I didn't do my book report or I didn't do the science project, I would oftentimes go into sleep dreaming about doing the work, only to wake up super excited and then simultaneously super disappointed because I actually have to still do the work. But it almost feels like we're there, maybe a year or two away from Neuralink or something that we can literally transmit our ideas and not even have to speak them into a machine that then will build it. Now, conversely, the more traditional things, the things that we thought were going to be really safe from AI, many people have talked about this, so I'm not telling you anything new. The making of things, illustration, art and design, designers, music, production, editing, coding, and even things like my parents would be super proud, like the prophecy I was supposed to fulfill to become an accountant or a lawyer, those are in dire jeopardy now because, oops, well, whatever, you don't need to see the slide. It's now turned upside down again. We also have to understand something that there's a relationship between inputs and outputs, right? You get what you put into life. You have to work hard, you have to hustle, you have to put in that energy. And so if we understand that, when we use the machine, the reason why AI is not perfect and the reason why some of you might feel super frustrated working with AI is because we give it abstract prompts. We are not clear on what it is that we want. Therefore, our lack of clarity in our own mind articulates something very generic, and then we're like surprised that what we get back is not very good. So we understand that low quality input equals low quality output. So we have to ask ourselves this question. It's the reason why we're speaking in front of you today for the next 50 minutes is that we have to understand the input. And what's happening is the machine inside the black box, if we were to pull it apart, is designed to give you a safe and therefore a very homogenized solution or an answer. It doesn't want to offend. It kind of goes through the middle of the road. So then it really calls into question, if you don't like the output, you have to question the input. So the output is a reflection of you. What is your intention? And what kind of responsibility do you have into the world? Do you want to do something good or something dark? Because with powerful tools, we can do just about anything. And more importantly, what is it you want to say? What is your tone of voice? What is your style? What is your lens into the world and your life experiences that then shape what the AI will do? Hence, one of my favorite lines from comics, with great power comes great response-ability. Okay, so the next part, I'm going to hand it over to Dave, where he's going to go over 4 use cases, and he's going to give you some workflows, and then I'll be back to summarize. So I'm going to stand over here kind of awkward.
Yeah. So we're going to show a little bit of prompts, and if you want to, you can take a couple of photos with your phone, but you will get access to the prompts later. So my name's Dave. I'm a video producer, and I've worked in tech for several years, and everything that we've worked on these projects is all about making it more efficient, making it cheaper, and making it get those same outcomes that we're always looking for. And so every project that I worked on, especially the past year, I started looking at how can I integrate AI into every single step along the chain. So from video strategy to pre-production to production to post-production, I started putting AI into every process to see how much can I replace myself, how much can I remove steps, how much can I make it easier. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through different use cases. The first one actually happened with Chris when we were traveling earlier this year. What we were doing is we were traveling. So we're going to go through all of these 4 different steps. The first one is using it as a personal assistant. The second is a little bit of hacks for self-development. The third is going to be ways that you can use it for content creation in a slightly different way to the other content creation we just saw. And then a little bit of an interactive application. So we're going to break each of the steps into 3. So number 1 is basic. Then number 2 is intermediate or middle, and then insane. So,
Dave, I just wanted to interrupt. The reason why we don't have a term for the middle one because we couldn't work AI into it, just so you know. Couldn't spell it funny.
There's no A in
just
middle.
Put it out there.
So earlier this year, Chris asked me, when we were traveling, we were in Berlin, and Chris said, can you find somewhere for dinner? And I really wanted to impress the team, and I was like, oh, come on, let's find something cool. And so a normal person would use Google or Yelp, but at that time, ChatGPT was starting to get a little bit cool, and I wanted to tell people when we found it and surprise everyone, oh, we used Chat. And so it was a little bit clunky back in the day, and so what I did was I wanted to experiment and give it a bit of a try. So what we did in level 1 is we're going to start off with the first prompt. This is the first thing I typed into Chat. What are some nice restaurants in Berlin? Can anyone imagine what result that's going to create? Everyone's tried it a little bit. And so it just gives the default basic answer. So it offers diverse culinary scene. And so usually with this kind of answer, it just spits out the same generic response, the default. I was like, not that impressive. I have to keep trying harder. So I kept on going. It was all through the phone, but it didn't have the app back then, so it was through the browser. I was like, come on, I want to impress everyone. So the next prompt is level 2. I said, can you make a list of the closest 10 restaurants to Arania Hotel, which is where we're staying, and I want you to present it in a text-based table sorted by the distance to the hotel, and please include the cuisine type and budget level. Because we didn't have that much time, so I wanted to make sure it was somewhere very close. And so the answer, starting to get pretty good. So this is the first time I asked for a text-based table. As soon as I did that, I was like, I'm going to do that in everything now. Because before, it was always just like one single axis. And so we can see the restaurant name, the cuisine type, the budget level, and it's sorted by the distance to the hotel. And I thought, that's pretty good. That's like kind of Google level. Can we go a little bit further? And so level 3 is, can we do the same results, but can we add the Google sentiment, the review sentiment, and then the Google ratings? I didn't know if it was going to do this. I always keep trying to break it. This probably won't work. Let's try it. And it added more to the table. It actually broke down the Google sentiment, and then it was sorted by the Google reviews. And this was, at the time, it was still live as well, before it went offline for a bit. So that was pretty impressive, and I was like, okay, I'm going to start using this every day now. So that was where everything started.
Hey, Dave, I want to interject here. What you don't know about Dave, he's a freakazoid. He loves tables and charts and diagrams and mind mapping. He shares some things with me. I'm like, I guess when somebody invites me to speak about AI, you're going to come with me. It just has to be. Well, what's interesting about this is I want to just tie it back to like the normal world for a second. And why is the level in which he's digging into this impressive to me, and how we should be thinking about how to use AI tools is because oftentimes, I don't know if you've ever been an art director, you have someone who reports to you, a designer, maybe a marketer, and you say, I need a marketing campaign. That's kind of like level 1. I need something, but I will give you no clues as to what I want. There are no success metrics. There's no ways of defining the quantitative and the qualitative things of what I'm looking for. And so you can see as he's peeling back the layers, as we get deeper and deeper, we're adding variables and conditions in what we're looking for. So it takes a minute for us to pause, reflect, and think what it is that we're really asking from another person. Because I find that it's a parallel, and it seems to hold to be true. If I ask the designer to make me a logo, they will make me a logo, and oftentimes leading to frustration for both me and that person. But I say, make me a logo within this range, explore quick ideas, and I don't want you to spend, and I give it her or him some parameters to work with. So if you're hitting a point in which the output that you're getting from AI is not good to you, it doesn't impress you, it could be that we just need to take a moment to give it and to articulate to it more of what it is that we want. And we're going to see more examples of this. Back to you, Dave.
All right. So we're up to the second level, which is self-development. So who here, raise your hand, who likes to improve themselves? Oh, there we go. Very nice. Who here out of that likes reading? Oh, okay, great. I've got a hack for you. All right. So first level of learning. So in self-development, we're going to go through the 3 levels. We're going to do a little bit of reading hacks. So I have a bookshelf at home, and it's super stacked. It's very impressive. But one time my niece came over, and she said, whoa, what are all these books for? Is it a show? I was like, oh, wow.
She called you out, man.
She called me out. I felt like an attack. And so underneath, I was like, wow, maybe I do have a lot of books I haven't read. And so everyone has that list of books that they haven't read. And so this is a bit of a hack that I started using. And that incident with my niece is what sparked this prompt. So level 1, give me a summary of the book Atomic Habits. Who here has heard of that book? Oh, very good.
Well, I've heard of it. That's not the question.
Okay.
Who here has read it, understood it, and applied it? You see, okay. Dave, you got to ask the right question.
Yeah.
We've all heard of the book. Come on.
All right. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to get a bit of the summary for Atomic Habits. This is the level of prompt that usually when you're starting out with ChatGPT, this is the one that you would type. And so what it did, gave a little bit of a breakdown, and then the 3 insights. Yeah, you can take that photo. Cool. And so, yes, that's the 3 main insights from the book. Tiny bit of a summary. But we always want to go deeper. We want to go, is that the best it can do? And so,
can I ask this question?
Of course.
The one person in this room who's actually read it, can you quickly scan this to see if it's helpful, reflective, or even true? Because oftentimes, you know, we ask for summaries and we walk away thinking that was the book. And I've made this mistake myself. I'm just throwing myself on here. where I asked it to read a book for me, Sell the Way You Buy, and I was not impressed at all, so I didn't read the book. But then when I actually read the book, it was a totally different experience. I'm like, damn, this was a failure. If I based it purely on the first prompt and trusted it to summarize that book, it was terrible. It was super generic. But when I actually read the book, it was full of like deep research and things that it did not tell me about. So I'm just curious, the person who's read Atomic Habits, maybe nobody raised their hand at that point because everybody's heard of it. So
Yeah.
we can't tell. But Dave, you read the book, right?
Yes.
Okay. He had to say that, by the way. So
I read it for this.
Yeah.
Okay, so going a little bit deeper into the intention of what we're looking for in a book like this, we'll go to level 2. So it's still building upon the original, but can you give me the key ideas and learnings from the book, Atomic Habits? So can everyone visualize what this answer is going to be compared to the previous? It's going to be a tiny bit more. And so here, instead of 3 points, it's now broken it down into 8. And you can see a little bit more of the insights, the structure, and things that will help out. So that's pretty good, still impressive, but we can always go deeper. We can always go, how can I make this prompt more intense? And so level 3 is, can you now give me an in-depth breakdown of the book's structure, so we can see the shape of the book, kind of like a table of contents, the key ideas, the insights, focused around mindset and belief change. So it's very important that we ask the intention of, what am I actually looking for in this book? When I'm at the bookstore and I see that book, do I want to buy that? And if I'm looking at it, what do I want out of that? What outcomes do I want? And so we need to tell ChatGPT, that's the outcome that I want out of this book. So we're looking for mindset and belief change. But here's the interesting thing. There was an app that I was using previously, and my favorite part of the app was when it gave book summaries, there was a little section at the bottom where it said, what do I do with this chapter? And I just remembered that when I was writing this prompt. And at the end, I said, wait, can you also include action steps for every single one? And here is the answer. It goes quite deep with the structure. It talks about each of the steps, and then every single step has what action and implementation steps do we need to take. Does anyone think they're going to use that for some of the books they kind of want to know? All right.
Yeah, so I get into debates with people about this all the time. I'd like to read, and I'm a slow reader because I read with intention to teach. And so I will often say to people, it's not important the number of books you've read. It's what you've retained of what you've read, yeah? We could agree to that. So you can read 100 books. If you don't remember a single thing, it doesn't really help. But it's even less important what you retained, but more important what you apply. So reading with the idea or intention of application of teaching or speaking about whatever it is you read, takes you to that next level. So now we can use ChatGPT or an AI-powered engine to actually do that for us to help guide us along the way. And neither of us are saying now no longer read books or don't buy books, but what you can do is get a really good preview of the content, have an understanding of it. Therefore, when you're reading, you're focused in on picking up very specific pieces of content. And you can also compare and contrast what you thought you knew about the book versus what it actually said, which I think deepens the learning experience for you.
It also adds more relevancy because if you go through a summary, your brain starts building those schemas and the mental models to understand what the author's intention is. And then when you actually start reading the book starts filling in and adding more depth by doing examples and stories. Yep, so the next one, we're now up to number 3, content creation. And it's going to have 3 steps as well. So when we think about, I want to make content, I want people to see me, what's normally the prompt that everyone types in? This is usually level 1. This would be the prompt that you see on all of those LinkedIn posts. This is, give me 10 ideas for Instagram Reels for self-improvement. Super broad, super generic. You'd find that in any of those 1,000 prompt packs. And so this is the answer. Not bad, but it's probably the same thing that Google would have churned out as well. Maybe if you look really close, maybe 1 or 2 good ideas in there. And so we always want to go deeper. So we still want to keep that and then go, well, how can we add more specificity into this prompt? How can we have it have more intention? So with level 2, keep the start, but give me 10 ideas for Instagram Reels for self-improvement that would help the audience transform through breaking through their limiting beliefs. Can you see the difference between the first one? It's like, here, just spray and pray and give me whatever. Now this one has the intention of transforming the audience, so there's a bit more of intention there. And so the answer for that one, can you see how the examples, limiting belief series, affirmation exercises, visualization practices, a lot more of this content is going to be more relevant to that outcome of transforming that audience. It's more specified, it's more aligned to that. So now let's go to level 3. Always we can go deeper. So here we go. Access the internet for the top 2023 trends to create 10 viral ideas, because before it wasn't viral ideas for Reels to best help the audience transform. We want to present it, again, in a text-based table, again, let's turn to that, separated by idea, number, the title. Can you please write a caption and give me a bit of a script structure so I know what to say when I'm on camera. We want to know what is the desired audience emotion, so what do we want the audience to feel, and then what is a soft CTA at the end, but written in the tone of voice of a kind and supportive guide. So when I was writing this, I was like, is this going to be able to do this? Because I didn't really put any full stops. So this was just a test, and I'm constantly adding and adding. And so I was not sure if it was going to do it, but I like the idea and the mindset of curiosity. Let's just do it, and if it breaks, who cares? It only took 1 second. Let's do it again and change little tweaks here and there. So here is a very beautiful table again. So there's the number. It wrote a title. It did the caption, gave you a bit of a script structure, the desired emotion in the audience, and then a call to action in the tone of voice. So a couple of you take a photo. Yep.
What I love about this is earlier Dave was talking about the limitation of human thinking. We want the computer to do what we do, but the computer can do way more than what we can do. So if you just look at this one prompt and the way that Dave has engineered or designed it, it has lots of parts and pieces to it. First, it has to do some research, so it's got to figure out really quickly and compare and contrast what it considers trends from 2023. It has to understand the word viral and what the viral quotient is, so it's comparing those two things. So right now it's mostly working as a researcher and probably as a content creator, influencer, marketer. And then it gets into bits of psychology and philosophy, and it's doing this all simultaneously in a matter of seconds. And this is like you having 6 brains working together in unison to do something at a really incredibly, impossibly fast speed. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what excites me about the kinds of prompts that Dave writes.
A way to add to that as well is you can actually pre-frame this prompt by saying you are an expert at psychology, at marketing, at content, and then it will actually use that context to add more to the prompt. We just didn't want to make it fill up too much, so everyone can take photos of it. So now we're up to the last one, which is creating an interactive application. And so this has been a dream for me to be able to make something like this. There's apps, there's coding, there's no code. But I think I was talking to Chris earlier about personal brand, and we wanted to talk about what is the importance of personal brand. So in this level, we're going to have 3 levels of building an interactive application. And the one that I wanted to build was how can we use ChatGPT to ask us questions to get more self-awareness in our, like, what kind of character am I? How can I build a personal brand worth following? And so we want to talk a little bit about how important personal brand is.
Yeah, so when I run workshops on personal branding, of course, you have to learn who you are and to be able to tell your story. And the framework is simple. The examples seem super clear, and then you let people do it, and they look at you like, I have nothing. Because it takes quite a bit to be able to reflect on our lives, to know what we stand for, to connect all the stories, and to find significance in those and connect the dots. And so inevitably, people just run into a brick wall. Like my friend Annalie Hansen, who's here, we've been working our 2-word brand for a year and a half, it seems like, or maybe longer, and she's still struggling through it. So Dave is like working out a way that maybe can help each individual in ways that I cannot. So I'm excited to see where you go with this, Dave.
Mm-hmm. So as usual, we will start with the basic prompt, level 1. And so can you make me a questionnaire for me to find good stories about myself? Because a lot of these different questions, we don't usually take the time to ask ourselves this. So this is when I started playing around with, can ChatGPT ask me questions? Can it prompt me? And so that's when it starts getting kind of meta and interesting. And so it made a bit of a map. What moments in your life have brought you the most pride? So even these questions, this is pretty cool to know about yourself. And so even at the basic level, this is going to give us a little bit more awareness and understanding of the things that we have gone through, because we sometimes forget these moments happen in our lives, and it gives you a little bit more of a guide to start focusing your story on when you use it for content.
And if you were to work with a story coach or go to a workshop, it's very likely that that person would ask you these very questions. Mm-hmm. Now, are these interactive when it asks you the questions, Dave, or just for you to think?
At the moment in level 1, it's just to ask you to think. But as we want to improve, I thought about, this is cool.
It's going to be a table. I know it's going to be a table.
It's going to turn into a table. So what we did was, with level 2, how can we improve this? And so even those questions were getting quite strong. And so what we wanted to do, this prompt's going to be a little bit larger. We want to start with the intention. We always start with the intention. I'm looking to build a personal brand. Can you create an interactive quiz that would ask me one question at a time? Because in the first one, it didn't really do any of that, and I did a lot of testing, and it asked like 20 questions at once, and then you answer 3. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore. So I changed it to ask one at a time. I have a feeling you've done something similar. And so can you ask them one at a time, but make it in a fun, gamified way? And even just asking if it's fun and gamified, it starts putting emojis into it as well. So it puts these little fun things in there. And so the quiz would follow story structure from movies. So it's going to make me a hero. So I want it to make me a character that the audience would like to follow. So after the quiz, you guessed it, present the answer in Markdown. So we're going to get a little bit further, but present the answer in Markdown. What Markdown does is the level in between tables. And so Markdown gives a nice heading, it gives you a nice formatting, and so you can easily copy that, and then it looks a lot nicer than plain text. So Markdown with bolded headings, bullet points, so I can easily remember it. So that will turn into a guide for me when I make my content. So here's the answer. Very similar to the previous, but now it has intention, knowing that we're building a personal brand. And secondly, it's going to have a little bit more story structure, whereas the other ones were just finding story. This is actually going to have a little bit of hero's journey, or the movie structures that we're all used to from Star Wars and a lot of those famous ones. Yep, so level 3. So let's go back through here. So what it's going to do, after it asks those questions one at a time, it will collect all of those and generate you a report. That's what I like. So it's going to give me, I am a movie star now. These are all the different steps, and it will fill it with the context of all of your answers. So that's level 2. Now with level 3, how can we make it cooler than that? And so the prompt will get bigger. So level 3 is, we want to build a personal brand, but we need a story. We need a story, and we want to know more about our personality and our character. Because when you're building a personal brand, it's not just about the story, but it's about you and the traits and what makes someone want to follow you. So this is still the same. I want you to create an interactive quiz, asking one question at a time. Ask the questions that focus on my positive character traits and extract the most likable ones. There's several books that actually talk about, if I show these character traits in movies, it will actually get the audience to have more buy-in, and they'll like you a lot easier. So wouldn't that be useful in your personal brand to know those types of things? It can. So what we're going to do is, to inform the quiz, we want to use Dan Harmon's story circle. He's one of the writers for Rick and Morty. So what we're doing is we're taking some things from that, and then we want to use Eric Edson's 9 character traits. So he's done research into so many different movies the past 100 years on what makes a movie successful, and he found 9 character traits that if you know, and if you show within the first 5 minutes, the audience will fall in love with you. So we're putting that into the quiz, and then that's from the story solution, and then Pixar's rules of storytelling. So we're adding more context. So can you see how when you start doing book summaries, and you understand what's in that, and you start using this, we're starting to put the Lego pieces together.
Hey, I have a question for you.
Sure.
I hope I don't trip you up.
Of course, yeah.
What are some of the 9 character traits?
The 9 character traits?
Yeah.
So funny, hardworking, courageous, caring, loved by others, and then the other 2, which are not so good, is unfair injury or injustice.
Oh.
Yeah.
I like those 2.
So yeah, those 2, when the audience sees that something shouldn't have happened to you, they will start to go, oh, I like that person just because they push hard.
That's like every Disney movie, right?
Yes.
The orphan.
Yeah.
So now you know why they're always orphans.
And it's
Unfair.
tested.
Well, you think about it for a second.
Yeah.
All right? Little Mermaid, Cinderella, Sleeping Beauty, it goes on and on.
So they're proven frameworks. Disney does it, Pixar does it, and so you'll have access to those as well, so you can have a little bit of a read too. And so, yep, of course, we do a text-based table. So after the quiz, create a breakdown in a text-based table again, and it shows my values. I want it to show character traits, my journey, my story, and make a guideline for my content. Who thinks that would be valuable? Cool.
Annalie, you're going to do this later? Why don't you do it right now? Give it a try. Tell us what you get at the end of this presentation. You have 25 minutes. Go, Dave.
All right. So this is what the quiz ended up looking like. Identify your character. So you can see it goes a little bit deeper into not just your story now, it's what will, if I talk about myself, what positive traits can extract out of my real personality, and if I post it on content, people will like me, root for me, and want to see me succeed. And it's all proven through movies. Some people have watched those, right? In their life, movies. So yeah, it breaks it down. It's a lot more specific than the previous, and you'll all have access to this as well. And so now we're going to talk a little bit about workflows together.
That was not designed like that, but that's pretty cool. Because we use Keynote to export to a PDF and Acrobat to make it a PowerPoint so that we can load it in here. So something weird and interesting has just happened there.
I like that. That's
okay,
good.
so for this next part, for workflows, there's some very interesting things that Dave is doing that I think all of you can benefit from. So I'm going to just speak on this next part, right? So here we go. Let me get my remote back out here. Boom. Okay, so you're listening to all this, and Dave loves to learn. He's always sending me links to videos that I just don't have time to watch. I don't know about you, but my friends seem to send me too many things for me to watch and consume. Here's a book. Here's a video. So what if we don't have time to watch all these things that are on our to-watch list or to our in our save folder? What are we going to do?
Who in here has a watch later folder on YouTube? You press that, and I'm never going to watch that, but it's called watch later. So yes, I have a very big list, and so I've been looking for a solution for this because there's so many great videos that start to be over an hour. I'm like, oh, I want what's in there, but I don't have time. And so one of the biggest breakthroughs and tools that I found recently, it's called Atify.app, and it uses AI to read the transcriptions of any YouTube video, and in one click, it will look through the transcription and extract the key insights and put them with emojis too. You get the emojis. So Atify.app, you install it, it's a Chrome extension, and your experience on YouTube will change. It's $5 a month, and for what it does, I am so happy. So you install the app, you press one button to summarize, it will give you extracts, the key insights, and then also in another tab, it will give you, so I'll show you the tab. So you see the key insights, and then there's a second button. If you press the second button, it will give you all of the structure and a summary with time code. So you can actually go, oh, it says something about that. You press it, and in YouTube, it will jump to that moment in the video as well. So it's like the DVD menu. We're old enough to know DVD menus, right? It will jump there on any video. Yeah.
Now, if you're not using something to help you transcribe and watch videos at a scale in which no human can do, you're really missing out on the opportunity here. As a content creator, we've made over 2,000 videos now on YouTube and across multiple platforms. Once you're able to extract the text, the key insights, you can use it to now generate better titles. Because as many of you know who create content on YouTube, it's the title and the thumbnail that determine the success of the video. The video has a part to do with it, but if people can't find it based on the title. So what my team does a lot is they cut videos of videos I've recorded so many and I don't even remember. I used to have to rewatch the videos to figure out what the title should be. Now I run it through some AI enhanced thing. I figure it out and I said, I don't know, generate some titles for me based on these criteria for to elicit an emotional response, to have a high click-through rate, and for an audience mostly targeted towards this thing. And it generates ideas. And I have to say, so far the AI has surpassed our ability to come up with titles. It's wild. Like I try, and I've been doing this for 9 years. It does a better job of coming up with titles that have a higher click-through rate. I still have to pick which titles. Oftentimes I have to combine it and rearrange the words a little bit, but it's doing 90% of the work. Okay, so here's the next problem, okay?
Yeah, sure.
And many of us might have gotten into this, especially if you're a creative person. You've been doing it for so long without a break. You've been doing the hustle grind life, and you just feel like there's nothing left in the gas tank. What are you supposed to do if you get stuck? What if you hit that brick wall and you feel totally burnt out?
So it actually happened to me. I was working on so many projects, and I got into a little bit of funks here and there. And I learned so much about psychotherapy and all these different things. I'm like, yeah, it's cool to learn it, but sometimes you want to talk to someone about it or something about it. And so there is an app that I started playing around with. And because I learned a lot about psychotherapy, I didn't want to like this thing. It's called Pi, your personal intelligence, and it's an app that you install on your phone, and it has a little button in the corner, and what it does is you can talk to it. And it can be she or he, it talks back. And it's super supportive, it's super kind, it's super helpful.
Stop talking about me like that.
It was super helpful, and I didn't want to like it. When I first used it, I was like, oh, I was trying to break it. I was asking all these questions, and then after about 5 responses, I'm like, okay, it's pretty good. So originally it was just text-based, but recently, a couple of months ago, they released the app on iPhone, and so now you can play around with talking to AI, and its functionality of voice is a lot better than the ChatGPT one. It's a little bit faster, it feels slightly more real, and it's very kind, it's very supportive, it's super patient. If you keep on saying stuff to it, it will never be mean to you. And then it gives you breathing exercises, it gives you all these different paths that you can take, and it will take you in any direction that you want based on questions that you ask. You can brainstorm, you can just vent, you can tell it things about your career, and it will give you like paths and ways, and ask you right questions to help you get a bit more awareness as well.
All right, wonderful. Okay, I think that's super awesome. We don't need friends anymore, apparently. So we're not having a new problem, Dave. I got a new problem because I'm just going to present more problems to you, okay? We know as a content creator, as a person who wants to create influence, a marketer, if you want to build relationships, communicate with people, it all starts with writing. So if a 21st century skill with AI is really writing. Like if you can articulate what it is that you want. But now I want to write something, but I can't because I'm stuck where I just don't know how. I've seen these great campaigns from some of the greats within advertising history, and I just can't figure it out. What am I supposed to do now?
So I actually was looking through my inbox, and I have this whole folder of just emails that you just shift, delete, remove everything. And one time I just opened one of them, and I scrolled to about 75%. I was about to delete it, but then one line got to me, and I was like, ooh, why do I care about that? That's interesting. And so I froze in my tracks, and I asked myself, what happened in this email to get me to care all of a sudden? And so I thought, wait, we've got chat. So I'm going to ask, how can I make a prompt to figure out what happened there? And so I created this prompt, and it will help you reverse engineer the structure of the persuasion triggers in any copywriting. So in emails, in ads, in sales letters, in newsletters, anything that has language, this prompt. So what I did was, it was from Resoluti. It was an app about procrastination. Oh, I told everyone what it is. Anyway, so this email, it was selling a product for procrastination. I didn't buy it yet. I'll buy it later. So it gave me this, and I was like, wow, this is very impressive. So what I did, I copied it into ChatGPT. And just before I did that, I gave it this prompt. I'm going to paste some content. Can you analyze the shape of it and put it in a text-based table, broken down into columns with extract number? I want you to give me the extracted dialogue, give me the persuasive technique or trigger, and then I want you to give me an explanation of that technique. What is the emotional residue that the audience would feel, the intended audience behavior, and what do you want them to do? But also, because we're learning how to write, I added a few extra things in different variations of this where I asked, can you give me a couple of other examples of this persuasive technique so I can, make it do some of the writing as well for me as well. And so it gave this. It actually went through the entire email, sentence by sentence, and it broke down what is the persuasive technique as it goes through the email. And you can see it's taking you through an emotional journey through the whole thing. And you can see it building up. It gives an explanation, the technique, and other examples.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
The part that got you emotionally involved, was it correct?
Yes.
This breakdown?
Yes, it
What
was.
was the line? Do you remember? Sorry, putting you on the spot.
Oh, okay, no, it's okay. It's in here.
We're both sleep deprived. Go ahead.
You did not start procrastinating all of a sudden. It was a slow build-up over time.
And what was the persuasive technique?
So the persuasive technique is FOMO, and yeah, the fear of missing out, and regret. Yes. Ugh.
All right, now we know.
I still didn't buy it, but so at least we can get lessons. They're everywhere. If anything makes you feel a certain emotion or it gets you to buy something, we should always look at and ask ourselves, how did this do this? And now you can use this prompt, even videos as well. You can transcribe videos, put that in, and then it will actually break down sentence by sentence the persuasion or the story arcs in videos as well.
Well, at this point, I want to ask anybody here, did anybody watch Alex Hormozi's webinar where he sold his second book and broke some kind of internet record? Anybody? Okay, a couple people. It was very effective, right? Did you buy a book? Did you? No. Did you buy a book? No. You did. You bought a book? Yeah. How many? Just one. Okay. It worked on one person in this room. Well, it worked on a lot of people because I think do you know how many copies he sold?
It was a very large amount.
Like a couple 100,000 copies in a day.
Yeah.
And so if you haven't seen his webinar on this, it's a masterclass on how to sell a book. But it's also built on a year's worth of creating and giving value to people for free. So there's another part to that. All right, sorry, keep going.
And if you'd like to, there's a way you can break apart that whole webinar by asking for, not sentence by sentence, but you can say, can you give me the persuasive structures in this webinar? And it will break that down in a text-based table. You can do it that way. And so this is where it starts getting interesting, right? I got this email and I said, wow, what can I do with this information? Because that's one of the things that happens with all these AI teachers, and they're giving all of these different prompt sets. What do you do with this, though? How can I use this for business? And so by us understanding what it made me feel in that email, here's the bonus. After it presents a table, now you can say, I'm making something similar in this industry and for this audience. Can you use this same structure, the one that got me, and can you rewrite me another email, but for this product in this industry? And this is where ChatGPT is different. It doesn't just find and replace, change one word. This changes the context, but keeps the structure. Does anyone see value in that? Damn. So then what we want to do is we want to keep the structure, but because we asked for the emotional residue and what it made us feel, can you crank that up to 11? Turn it up a bit as well, and it will do that too.
Okay, you know how this is going to go. But Dave, I don't know who I'm speaking to.
Ooh.
We had not a bet, but just kind of a wager to see if ChatGPT could figure out who's going to attend this conference. Because one of the important things as a speaker is to know thy audience, right? And so here we go. Mm-hmm. We don't know who's going to show up. Let's see if it's right.
So we don't know who was going to be here. And so what we did, we wanted to create a buyer persona. And so I wrote a little bit of a prompt. It's a little one. That's a little one. So create a buyer persona for creative design automation in Brussels. And so we don't have to read through this whole one. You can take a photo if you'd like, or it'll be included later in the resources. But this is one of the most powerful buyer persona. Like, these are the categories that are most useful at level 1. At level 1. And so once we've all taken that photo, there we go. This is the answer. So Emily Dubois, this is her background. She's a senior graphic designer. I know there was about 25% over here, designers. Shows the career path, her family, her demographics. She's 30, her interests, and then the podcast. Ooh, she listens to the future. That's good.
She's got good taste. What can I say?
Then we've got the books and the margin, like the magazines. And so the reason why we want to get very specific with the prompt that we're creating is because we asked for all of these specific things here in the prompt previously. If you don't get specific with what you're asking for, it might give this, or it will give a bullet point list of 5 things in single sentences. So what we want to do is we want to be very intentional. We want to give it the guardrails of how much information do I want, because with all of the new updates and how much resources it's trying to manage, it's not going to give you the best answer if you don't ask for it. So that's only the first half of it. It goes even deeper. So the identifiers, her communication preferences, she likes instant messaging, so she likes quick answers. It goes into her primary goals, her challenges. Is this starting to resonate with anyone? The primary challenge and the secondary challenge. So they want to stay abreast of the latest design software and tools. That sounds familiar. And then what can we do? So to help achieve goals, provide a design automation tool. So any of the designers, are you seeing any similarities with the journey? Who are the designers in here? Yeah. Can you see anything in there that's close?
Was it close at all? It was quite close, huh? So David has done this for me for several times when we were going through Europe, and he would help me customize my workshop for each city, identifying their objections, their attitudes, and opinions, especially around pricing and negotiations. So I was able to walk into a room prepared with what I was going to deal with. So some people love talking about money, and some cultures throughout Europe hate it. And so I didn't walk in unprepared. So that was really cool to see. And we would always compare at the end of it and show people with a profile that was built about them and if it was right or wrong. More often than not, it's about 80-ish% right. Okay. It's not perfect.
So we'll kind of go a little bit deeper, but still keep the same thing. An additional part of it is, can we go deeper into the person's internal journey? So please add their fears, doubts, worries, and objections towards moving forward. Can you please also add the potential internal limiting beliefs that would be stopping them from growing? And then finally, using copywriting techniques, similar to what we did before, can you reframe those negative or limiting thoughts into positive beliefs and attitudes? And so here we go. Her fears, the doubts, and the worries. So one of the fears is fear of loss of creativity. So she worries that automation technology may suppress her creative instincts. And then one of the other ones, the objections moving forward, she's worried that a machine could replicate the human element. And then over here, she's worried about she must do everything to ensure the quality of her work, and she wants to delegate and automate tasks. It might compromise the quality of her work. So is that still similar?
Well, would be if I didn't hear your presentation from before. So when you surprise this information.
Oh, yeah.
So you're saying we're doing a good job addressing your exact fears. Perfect.
Oh, awesome.
Hey, it's working. For one person, hey, not too bad. 1 out of 300, we're doing good today.
All right. So as always, we can go, how can we make this better? What else can we do with this? Because we're always about collecting all of this information and then building a bank of, well, I have this resource, I have this experiment I did here, and so all of the different things I've created over time with all these prompts, it's by doing things in weird areas that don't normally go together. I'm like, oh, that can link with that. Oh, the text-based table from the Berlin restaurants can go with that. Copywriting can go with that. And so they all start mixing those different attitudes of curiosity together into different techniques of using prompting. And all of this is just prompting. And so with the bonus, here we go. Using all of this buyer personas context, can you write me a sales letter for email selling a teaching workshop or product for design automation? And then also, just like adding books, can you please use the structure and frameworks of a copywriting book, the 16-word sales letter? Just going to infuse that in there as well. So all the experiments you do in the past, they're not like islands. They all connect. And that's the funnest part about all of this.
Okay, now just out of curiosity, does anybody here, are you a video creator? You kind of make either for yourself or for anybody else? Okay, there's just a few of you. Okay, all right. There should be more, but okay. We'll continue. So Dave, I don't know how to use video for my brand to increase sales. A lot of us will create content, but then we're looking at our bank account, and it seems like there's not a connection between our effort and energy. And if you're in the marketing space, you're probably wondering the same thing. It takes a lot of effort to make videos, right? So what do we do here?
So across the year of me experimenting with ChatGPT, I always looked through the process of all of the videos I was creating. And I was like, how can I either optimize this process, replace that part with AI, or weave AI in there somewhere? And so this prompt is a mix of everything I've ever seen. So all the prompts you've seen up until this point, they all started merging together to make this big Lego monster. So this would be the prompt. It's quite long, but it's broken into sections. So you'll see different inspirations from all of the other prompts we've done. So I run a design agency, but we don't have much trust-building video content. can you create me a video content plan of the 10 most effective videos required to soft influence a customer towards a sale? I've written this prompt so many times that I already know the rest of it. So can you please present it in a text-based table, broken down by columns, by video number, video title, position in the awareness funnel. Oh yes, video type, position in the awareness funnel, key messaging, the suggested B-roll. So we've added a little bit in there. It will actually suggest the B-roll for the video as well. What is the emotional residue? What do we want the audience to think and feel during the video? And as I'm writing this, I'm like, is this going to do it? I'm still asking so much. So what do we want the audience's behavior to be? And then also a call to action in that video, but written in the tone of voice of a high-end design agency. Can anyone start imagining what this result's going to look like? The first time I asked this, I asked for 25 videos. And so this is just a small example. This is 4 rows, and it made all of them.
4 of 25.
So the first time we did it, this is a row 4, but the first time I did it, it made 25 videos in this same format. It just kept filling the whole frame. So it has each of those sections, and then people ask, like, what do we do with this? You can actually go deeper. You can always go deeper. And so this is number 1 to 4. It actually made 10 examples. So you can say, write me a script for video 6. So it wrote the script. And so as a video producer, I was like, ugh, that's pretty good. And so that's a very, very minimal prompt. Write me a script. If you start adding more context, what's the intention, adding all these different tone of voice elements, you can get a stronger script. But I just wanted to start with that. Write me a script. And then so this is one of my favorite prompts. I thought about the script, and across the process of video production, I was like always trying to go, how can I add AI into this? The next one is, imagine I'm the director on the set of this shoot. Can you write me a series of questions to ask the talent or the client that if I asked would result in this script? And it did it. And so that is a big bottleneck for producers who don't really know what to ask. And this has story infused into it as well. So you'll be taking people on these journeys.
I used to direct and produce music videos, documentaries, and commercials for a living. So the hardest part, the most tedious thing you have to do is research and sit there and think of the questions and the questions you didn't think of, so that you're fully prepared, so that you can put all the questions away. So when you're talking to someone, you can build a story. And sometimes we would guess and a story would take place, and sometimes you would guess incorrectly and wish you had asked these kinds of questions. So the fact that now we're shaping the conversation ahead of time and getting AI to help us generate the questions, now we can just ask and listen and be fully present to the conversation. Okay, so that takes us to our final part of our presentation today. So Dave's put me in charge of summarizing everything he said. So are you ready? So I'm going to do it, okay? So the first thing that we learned is Dave likes tables, and he likes emojis, and he's very kind and empathetic. That's a summary of Dave. But actually, we want to get really meta on this. Usually, we would summarize everything for you, but we're going to test you a little bit. We want you to install Whisper, transcribe the audio from the video, this live stream, or the wherever this content lives, upload the text file into ChatGPT, and then ask for a summary of, guess what, key insights and action steps, and put it into a table. So here's some of the resources and tools for you, as Dave promised. We mentioned a bunch of tools. It doesn't matter because he's done a much better job. If you scan in this QR code, it'll take you to every prompt and everything that's in his brain. It's up there. It's free for you. Is there a call to action on that?
Oh, yeah. So if you scan that, it's going to have every single prompt, all of the slides that were broken down, and it's going to be an interactive document where you can go through everything.
Okay. Look at that. We finished on time. I just want to thank everybody. Our time's up. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.